Hi guys, welcome back to Astrophotography Quest. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you all about the differences between planetary and deep sky astrophotography for beginners. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. First of all, let's start off with deep sky. Deep sky astrophotography is the most common type of astrophotography, as it is the easiest, and sometimes the easiest, depending on what. The most important thing in a deep sky astrophotography rig is the mount, whereas from planetary, the most important thing in planetary astrophotography is actually the aperture of the telescope. So in deep sky astrophotography, we want to prevent stars from trailing across the screen because we have to take long exposure images, versus in planetary astrophotography where we only have to take really short, quick images. Actually, we're not taking images, we're taking a whole video, get as many frames as possible, take very short exposures, and that's basically what you want in planetary. Deep sky is the complete opposite. So in deep sky astrophotography, what you want to do is you basically want to get a camera that's wide field, it'll get less grain. In planetary, you want a camera that is much more narrow, that zooms in on the planet like we want. Another difference between deep sky astrophotography and planetary astrophotography is that planetary requires less time than deep sky ever will. Deep sky probably requires, this is on average though. So deep sky usually takes all night, and they're very faint targets. Usually in deep sky, they're very faint. You can't do it very well without a DSLR or something that can take long exposure images over like 30 seconds. You don't need necessarily 30 seconds, but you should, because it actually helps bring out more detail. But the issue is if you stack, you don't actually have to have that. I mean, if you stack it like thousands of images, it just makes it easier to do it with having a mount. All right, guys. Well, which one is right for you? If you're looking to save a lot of time, I would recommend going for planetary. If you're looking to save a lot of money, I would probably gear towards the planetary side, because deep sky requires an expensive mount, auto guiders to keep the stars from trailing. It requires a lot more effort. It's just harder overall to do deep sky astrophotography, but planetary is really hard as well, because you have to capture those faint details on the planet, like not faint, but they're like really blurred out because of the atmospheric conditions. That's where a ZWO ADC comes in. It's really hard just to capture those details on, like, for example, Saturn. You can easily capture its rings, but what about all the tiny little Cassini divisions? And what about the detail actually on the planet itself? That is hard to capture. So, deep sky is a lot easier, yes, in some ways, but planetary is also really easy in some ways as well. But it just takes a lot less time to do planetary. So, which one is more fun to do? So, I would say in the end, the most exciting thing is probably deep sky, because you get amazing detail and like nebula, galaxies. It's really awesome. But if you're looking for a fun all around, just general fun all around, planetary is better because you get to see detail on the planet when recording it and then after. So, but it is more fun to do deep sky in my opinion. Now, the one I would recommend for a beginner is probably deep sky. The only reason to recommend this is because it teaches you a lot about astrophotography and all the concepts and everything and capturing targets. I would recommend, if you're a beginner and you have never done astrophotography before, I would recommend stepping to the deep sky realm before you step into planetary, because deep sky is a lot of fun, a lot easier in some ways because the setup is a lot smaller. You can just even use a DSLR and a wide angle lens or a telephoto lens with no tracker. Really easy, really simple. So that's why deep sky can be a lot more fun for a beginner, because it's a very simple, easy setup that gets you results instantly. Now, I wouldn't recommend going into planetary only because there's a lot of stuff inside of planetary. Like, you have to have a planetary camera, a telescope, a tracker, filters, all sorts of stuff. And oftentimes, monochrome cameras are the best way to go with planetary. So I just recommend, well, that's the same with deep sky. But the point is that planetary is a lot harder to do, and sometimes because of the setup being more complex and stuff. So even I'm not a good planetary imager myself, but I'm much better at deep sky than planetary for sure. But yeah, so deep sky would be a lot easier for a beginner because of just the setup, and the general setup for a deep sky astrophotographer is just a DSLR and lens. I mean, you don't even need to have a full rig or anything like that. It's just plain simple DSLR, tripod, lens. That's it. Also, it saves you a lot of money for sure. I mean, I've even seen astrophotographers do it with their phones. It's really easy. So, yep, that's basically it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a thumbs up. And if you like my content, please subscribe. I am Asher at Astrophotography Quest. And until next time, clear skies.